Hi, this is Father Trey Nelson at St. Jude the Apostle Catholic Church in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with a brief homily for the 13th Sunday in Ordinary Time. That's Saturday and Sunday, June 27th and 28th, 2020. In preparing for today, I was reminded of a conversation I had many years ago with a young man whose mom had just died. She was a single mom, a single parent, and so for the longest time it had been just the two of them, and now it was just him. They'd had a while to prepare. She had been sick a long time, and they had had time to prepare. However, I don't know if there is such a thing as an adequate amount of time to prepare for something like that. But the extended family as well, and the day came, the hard day when she passed. Whenever you and I are sitting down with someone who is in a moment of serious trauma or acute, deep, serious, life-changing pain, here's my suggestion. One of the first things that we do not want to say to them is something like, "Hey, you're going to be okay." All of us know, and if we are not aware of this, we need to be, that in a situation like that, the most important thing to do initially and throughout, but especially at the beginning, is to be present and just to listen. Don't get me wrong, at some point they and we will need to hear that promise at some point from someone in some way, namely that we will be okay. It's just that when we say that to someone, we need to know what we mean. In other words, we need to have what you call a healthy, balanced theology of suffering. For example, if we say to someone, if it is appropriate and necessary for us to say to someone, "You're going to be okay," we need to know and somehow convey that okay does not necessarily mean the same. And so there came a moment when I felt it was appropriate to say this to this young guy. And the conversation went like this. I said, "Look, there's something I want to say to you, and I've been wanting to say it for a while, but I didn't know if you were ready to hear it or not." He says, "Well, what's that?" And I said, "Look, man, you're going to be okay. It's going to hurt really bad and be really confusing for a while, and it will probably always hurt to one degree or another. But I promise you, I give you my word, you're going to be okay." He asked me, "How do you know that?" I said, "Well, it's not like the kind of knowing when you're doing a math or a science problem. You just choose to believe it. Having no idea what things are going to be like in a week, a month, or a year from now. We just choose to believe it. And here's the thing, no one can make us do that. We have to freely choose it." He says, "Help me understand that." I said, "Well, let me ask you this. Do you believe that the sun is going to come up tomorrow?" He says, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Do you believe that the sun is going to rise tomorrow?" He says, "What's that got to do with anything?" I said, "Just, do you believe?" He goes, "Yes, I believe it." I said, "But you don't really know it for a fact, do you?" He says, "No, but the track record's pretty good." I said, "Well, really, that's how it is with us and God and God's protection and God's strength and God's love. When the sun will set today, you may not feel it, but God's love and strength will enfold you as a nice warm blanket upon you at night. And in the morning, when you rise, that same love and strength and endurance will shine upon you then too." Today, as I was preparing for the homily, the scripture verse that struck me, and the reason I think of this encounter with this young man today, came from the first reading from the second book of Kings. Elisha the prophet visits a home of a man and a woman. They had no children, apparently, and he was advanced in years. And Elisha asked her servant, "Can something be done for her?" And the servant says, "Yes, she has no son, and her husband is getting on in years." Elisha said, "Call her." When the woman had been called and stood at the door, Elisha promised, "This time next year, you will be fondling a baby son. This time next year, you will have a son. This time next year, things will be different. This time next year, you will see that you rose above this moment of struggle and doubt in your life." Now, when he said that to her, I can only imagine her reaction probably was anything from, "Are you crazy?" or "How do you know that?" Then again, she may have embraced it fully, not knowing what was coming next. That may be where some of us feel like we're standing right now. Pandemic, racism, protesting, not to mention the issues that we all have to deal with in our own personal lives, about which most people are not aware, But in all of this, we need to be reminded that we will rise above it and that things will not always be exactly as they are now. Things will be different, but we will be okay because we are a resurrection people. Or as our friend, the late Father Mike Collins, used to often say, and as we have often remembered here, beyond every Good Friday, there is always an Easter Sunday. So I guarantee you today that those listening, there are those who need to hear that. There are those who, because of how they feel about everything going on in the world, there are those who feel worn down from the worries and the struggles they have in their own lives, are wondering, how is this going to all turn out? Financial worries, health worries, relationship issues, happiness issues, you name it. Most of us, if not all of us, are probably wondering when it comes to at least one aspect of all of this, what will life be like a year from now? We have no idea what the start of school will look like. We have no idea what the holiday time, Christmas Mass will look like. We have no idea. We can think about it. We can speculate about it. We don't know really for sure. But there's one thing we do know. God's love rises before the sun. We are a resurrection people. We will rise above this, whatever it is, and things will be different. But we will not just get through it, and we will not just be strong. I guarantee you, we will be stronger. From St. Jude Church in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, this is Father Trey Nelson with your brief homily for the 13th Sunday in Ordinary Time, June 27th, 28th, 2020. We are resurrection people.